Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well.
You've just come back from Perth.
I have,
Yeah.
and every time I go there, I come back raving about the little place called Subiaco, which you'd have to argue, and I think I've said this before, when people talk about a 15-minute city, that's Subiaco. You can walk everywhere, you can cycle everywhere, there's every shop you need there, there's a food court, and there's a train station. So we land there and we go everywhere by train, and it is a breeze. So
that's good.
And lovely weather too.
Well, and the weather here on Saturday, where you were in Perth, was I love the way the weather forecasters and the news people talk about massive heat waves. Well, it was only 37 degrees, but I did hear that the Paco Fest closed early because the ambulance brigade were called up for heat exhaustion.
Yeah, run off their feet, I bet you.
And that's a great festival for Geelong, and it's really become a signature event. But if it's probably me, I might have had a look at the forecast before it was held and made some changes.
So, Bill, who's today's guest?
All right, today another interesting guest, and it's Craig Kennedy. Craig is the founder and managing director of a technology company called Kenstra, and we'll hear about Kenstra as we go through this interview. Craig actually lives in Sanctuary Lakes.
That's
right?
correct, yeah.
Which has got a great golf course.
It does, yeah.
Right, and I've played there, and I've also played there on a windy day, which you don't want to do. But Craig has as I say, got a good business background, and we're going to hear a bit more about Craig the person today.
So welcome, Craig.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate being here.
So we'll start as we always do. Where did you go to primary school?
Primary school was in St Peter's Primary School in Hoppers Crossing. So yeah, was there. Actually, grade prep and grade 1 was at Mossfield Primary School. Moved to a Catholic school as a non-Catholic back then. And so yeah, that was where primary school was. Yeah.
And then high school?
High school was MacKillop College there in Werribee. Just as you're coming through the freeway, you'll see it there as on the way into Melbourne. Yeah.
And while you were at high school, did you have any ambitions about what you wanted to do one day?
Did I have ambitions about what I wanted to do one day? Yeah, I did. I thought one day I wanted to be the Prime Minister, and I thought, I'm glad that hasn't happened, that's for sure now.
Well, there's still a chance, Chris.
There's still a chance, yeah. I think I've seen what those guys go through, and I think, no. Look, I always had always was fairly academic, fairly sporting, and I think just knowing my own personality now, I had a little bit of an entrepreneurial flair. I was school captain of MacKillop back then at the time, and that was probably my first real sense of a leadership role. So I did that. Interestingly enough, I applied. I really wanted to do banking and finance. I thought banking and finance was for me, and I applied for a role. A course at Victoria University at the time. I knew I had to get 280 on my Anderson score to get in. For those who remember Anderson scores, I got 282. I thought that's perfect, and that was the year that Jeff Kennett cut 50,000 university places, and so I didn't get in. So I didn't get into university, and it's a really interesting story from there because what happened, I went and knocked on the level coordinator's door, and I said, you must have people pull out. Let me in. And he said, yeah, we do, but this is the first year ever. We're not going to let people in. Because we've cut too many university places, so I had to wait. I went and got a job at the time in a steel factory, and then ultimately ended up getting a job as a teller in National Australia Bank. I went and knocked on his door again at half-year intake and said, there must be a half-year intake to get into university. He said, yeah, there will be. I rang him again, said, what happened? He said, no, they're not even doing a half-year intake this year. You're just going to have to wait until next year. So I said, okay, all right, I'll wait till next year. I was working in the bank at the time. He came to me, then I applied again, and he knocked me back again. And I said, what happened? They said, because you're under 21, you can't get into university. And under these placements, all the new kids get the thing. So I said, what do I do? And he actually came around to my house, and he said, look, I'm going to tell you this. It's never going to write anywhere. Apply as a middle-aged student. Put yourself down as if you're 25. No one will look at it. And when you get in, put your proper birth date on, you get in. And that's how I got into university.
I love it.
In banking and finance.
That's right. Now, when you're at high school, did you have any part-time jobs?
Yeah, I had a lot. I was, I think at one stage when I was 15, I think I had 7 different employers on a group certificate. I was teaching karate at one place. I was working at Food Plus. I was working for Werribee Park Golf Club. I was collecting balls on the driving range. There was plenty of different jobs I had back then, yeah.
That's really, I think that's the most we've had, isn't it?
Well, that's right. Yes, it's. But when we ask that question, we get some common themes, don't we?
Yeah, depending on the age, it's normally a paperboy round.
Yeah,
remember those?
Did that? Yeah, did the paperboy rounds too. Yeah.
And then it's Coles or Woolies.
All right. So you worked at the bank for how long?
I worked at the bank for the best part probably of 10 years. The first 5 with National Australia Bank and the second 5 with ANZ. In a whole range of different roles, and I'd certainly say to anyone from a career perspective, I've actually even said it to my son, if you can start off and work in a larger organisation, you can get access to everything. And I was really privileged from working in the branches as you would in Tellerland, then into lending. I got into electronic banking. I remember writing the actual financial business case to launch ANZ E-Trade when trading was becoming a thing on the internet. All the way through into finance roles, and then eventually into people management roles and district management roles, which brought me down to Geelong.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting comment you made there, because we do a fair bit of work in family business, and one of the issues I always say is when the next generation come through, don't let them come straight into the business.
Yeah,
get out and work and get some other experience, and as quite rightly you say, go to a large company or something like that.
Yeah.
When I sold my business many years ago, I had to take on a 2-year contract with one of the big multinationals. And the lesson I learnt in those 2 years made me keep asking the question, why didn't I do this in my own business? And that's from a discipline point of view, but more about procedures and processes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. Look, I'd agree with that. Look, I've got a 23-year-old son who, incidentally, has got a job working in business banking in the Westpac branch down here in Geelong. And I love the fact that he's getting exposure to many, many different business people, their processes, reading their business plans, reading their business models. I'd love for him to come and work in my business one day if he wanted to, but there's no pressure there. But while he's there, he's learning exactly right, all of those processes, business thinking, and getting a lot of exposure. And I think also, if you have ambition and you want to move forward, all of those larger organisations will put you on development programs that you might not get if you stay in small business. If you move to medium or larger business, you'll get them. But all of the leadership courses, the personality profiling courses, understanding about yourself and personal development, you'll get that in those companies that you tend to find a bit harder in some of the smaller companies.
So what happened after the bank then? What led you out of the bank?
What led me out of the bank? So what led me out of the bank was I was without trying to sound up myself, let's say, I was actually
we don't mind.
I was actually relatively successful. I was running the finances for ANZ Bank at the time for their entire branch network. So it was hundreds of millions of dollars in budget that I was running that for them. I decided that I was okay at numbers, but numbers wasn't my passion. I wanted to go and learn how to manage people. So I begged the national manager of the retail bank at the time, would he give me a job in people management? And after he rejected me 3 times, so there's a similar story there to the university. I got rejected, but kept bashing the door down until I.
But you're persistent.
Kept
That's
bashing
what I
the door
like.
down until I got in. He said, "Okay, I'm going to trust you to go down there and run the Geelong region for the bank." So I ran the Geelong region, which was started at Corio. There was 9 branches all the way out to Queenscliff, Torquay, Ocean Grove, those kind of branches. And over a period of 18 months, we totally transformed the region. We'd gone from I'd made the bank at the time, I think it was $10 million more than what they were making the prior year. Customer satisfaction went to being the best in the country. Compliance went from being in the toilet to pretty good. All of that staff satisfaction went through the roof. And then the bank said, so I made them $10 million, and the bank said, here's your bonus. 1/3 in cash, 1/3 in deferred shares for 3 years, 1/3 in deferred option for this period of time. You lose half your cash in tax. And I went, I've got to go and work for myself. This is not working. And so literally that was a sliding door moment for me that said, I've got to go and work for myself. I want to go and work for myself. And I was really, really lucky that I had a great mentor who actually mentors people like Gail Kelly, the first female CEO of Westpac Bank, and these kind of people, who said to me that you're young enough, and if you effectively have the courage to do it, go and do it. Because if you stay too much longer, you run the risk of going too much higher. Executive salaries, kids in private schools, mortgages, you won't be able to get out.
Yeah.
So took the leap of faith, and he backed me to do it. And then really what I did is I just started looking for what's a business I could run. I just knew I wanted to be backed by a big brand, and I wanted there to be some kind of recurring income that sat there behind it. And as it so happens, Telstra shops were fairly new back then. And so, 20 years ago in November 2004, I launched my first ever Telstra shop in Sunshine. And, the rest is history.
How many licences did you end up with?
At the max, I had 8 Telstra shops, eight Telstra licences,
Well, because they didn't like people with too many shops, did they?
They didn't like people who had too many shops. No, they... It was interesting watching that journey over a period of time. In the early days, it was a land grab. It was just connect as many mobile phones as you can. And then we all had trailing commissions. And then it got to the point where some of the Telstra licensees were so successful, all they had to do was just literally break even, and then they could live off the trailing commissions. So Telstra said, no, we're getting rid of trailing commissions and forcing you to be hunters again. And they bring it back again, and it just ebbs and flows. But they didn't. They weren't keen on having licensees that had from all manner of risks, But they did have Vita Group, who was an ASX listed company who had sort of 100 stores at the time. Yeah.
So there was obviously another tipping point that you got out of that Telstra situation.
Yes, that was a real challenge. So we're all in COVID. I remember. I had just, and some of you guys might remember Ross Marking, who owned Stratel and the businesses in Warren Ponds for years. So I purchased Ross's businesses from him in October 2019, and I think COVID hit in March 2020.
Yes,
sure did.
Never forget.
Grand Prix,
yes, March 2020.
Which is next week or the week after or something, yeah.
And it hit, and the lockdowns happened. And I remember going into my business. I said to my wife, it was a Saturday, I'm going into work, and I came back and I said, look, we won't if things go bad, we won't lose our house. We may lose our holiday house. We'll definitely lose our businesses. This is what will happen. And then we just worked our way back from there. I think, and then sitting on the couch one night, got a phone call from my district manager from Telstra at the time that said, there's a really important call tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. You need to be on it. Make sure you're on it. And I remember sitting down here in a cafe with my sales manager, because we'd gone for a walk along the beach together, and we're sitting there in the cafe. I said, mate, I've got this meeting at 8 o'clock. I'll just put it on the background. I don't think it'll be much. And sure enough, there was some somber faces from Telstra on there, and they came on and they said, we just want to let all of you guys know under ASX continuous disclosure requirements, the board's made the decision that we no longer want private Telstra licensees anywhere in the country. You're all done. You can continue to trade out to the end of your term and shut down for nothing, or you can sell to us now under our terms and conditions. We understand this is a fair bit to digest. We'll be back in a couple of hours to give you more detail. So that was a massive sliding doors moment, and look, incredibly stressful. We had 180 staff at the time, and that was public, and a lot of my staff found out about it through the newspapers and the radio before it had a chance to talk to them.
Yeah, because they did the press release straight after the phone call.
They did the press release straight after the phone call. So they were all terrified what was going to happen. It was a real test of leadership. To how do you keep these guys together? That sale process is not a 1 month sales process. The sales process for a lot of us took 12 months. So you were sort of trading in a limbo land. But in the end, I think it was certainly the right decision for us as a business, and I've got to say to Telstra in that regard, from a fairness perspective, they weren't generous with the funds that they paid us, but they weren't ruthless either. They gave us you'd probably call fair value for money in terms of the value of our businesses, and that got us completely out of consumer retail Telstra. We still had 2 Telstra Business Technology Centres, But then recently, a couple of years ago, Telstra did a similar thing with Telstra Business Technology Centres and said, look, for the bulk of us, I think there's to be less than 5 privately owned now, but they effectively did the same thing and took them back. And that was probably a couple of things. That the financial model wasn't working for many of us as licensees. But as we had a passion to go down a path of helping businesses with IT, with cyber and consulting, and I think this is not just Telstra, this is telcos worldwide. They're stuck in a product-based environment. So effectively, so October happened. Then October 2023, the Telstra Business Centres were sold back to Telstra as well, and we effectively relaunched and launched Kenstra, which is an ICT company. We've taken a lot of time to say, if you deal with us, we're value-centric first and foremost. We value lasting relationships. We've been around for 20 years, and we value core simplicity at our core, in a sense that we're easy to deal with. You know, it's very hard negotiating a behemoth like Telstra. It's very hard negotiating a behemoth like Microsoft. And for us, it's an opportunity to say, how do you take complex telco, complex Microsoft, complex IT, and for business customers, how do we look after and support your IT environment? So that business has now really sort of taken off.
Where'd the name come from?
So our old communication used to be called Kenstra Communications, and Ross's business that we bought was Stratel, so Kenstra became that. And it's also a bit of a play on words with Telstra too. So
I wasn't going to say that. But
Yeah. So who is your ideal client? Or is it, if you had to say, this is my sweet spot, this is the client, this is what we can offer them. Give us a bit of a description of that.
Yeah, perfect. So our sweet spot of a client would be, in the IT world, our sweet spot would be anywhere from, say, a small to medium business up to what you would call a lower end of a large business. Our largest client has about 500 office staff with PCs and about 3,000 field workers that we look after from an IT perspective. But many customers we look after are, 10, 20, 50, 100 sort of seats. There's a few of them that we look after to sort of 300, 500 seats. What we tend to find with customers in that bracket is IT is so complex now, and there's so many disciplines to it. If you're a business, and there's quite a number down here that might have 100, 200 staff members, and you've got an IT manager who looks after your environment, there's no way that IT manager has the skill set to be a network specialist, to be a Microsoft specialist, to be a telephony specialist, to be a security specialist, to be all of these different things, and we employ all of those people. So our specialists, we sort of have a couple of business models that says, if you want us to look after you and look after everything from strategy to like a chief information officer as a service, as well as support and help desk, we'll do that. But if you have your own IT manager that just needs to be complemented with specialist skills, that's what we'll do. So and so we're not really suited to small business, so sole traders, less than 5, less than 10 people. We're not really suited to that. Having said that, we will take on board anyone who values the relationship with us and values our opinions. I try and drive it in our business that says, I'll spend your money like it's mine, and protect you the way we can. And if you value that, and if you value that, and you want to see IT as an enabler in your business, then that's where Kenstra is fantastic for you. If you're somebody who's just looking at IT and saying, hey, I'm spending $1,000 a month or $5,000 a month, and how can I get that to be cheaper? Well, Kenstra's not that.
No, you mentioned there about your values. Now, on your website, I read last night that you've got what I call the traditional values listed. And one of my favourite raves or rants is going to businesses and seeing signs on the wall. And there's only one I know where we've interviewed this gentleman in Melbourne, and he actually lives out the signs that are on the wall. Now, so you've got respect, integrity, excellence and teamwork. So tell me, how do you live that out, and how does your staff live it out in your business?
Yeah, good question. It's probably important to say, where did they come from as a starting point? And there was a number of years ago where I took my entire management team off-site just down at the Novotel, And we literally spent half a day trying to work out what our values were. We had an external facilitator coming in and we had stickers on the walls and we were trying to work it out. So it's important to say they're not my values, they're our team's values. And that's a really big thing as a starting point. But you're right, you can put them up on a wall and no one knows what they are. I've dare I say, I've watched it in corporates where the values change on the wall and you don't even know. No one's even told you the values have changed. In Kenstra, I can tell you that we start every single all of business meeting reminding people about what our values are, how they are, and how they've played out, in terms of customers we've served, what we do, and how we go. Every coaching conversation, every performance conversation we have in terms of empowering people and saying, make decisions. If you make decisions according to our values, we will always back you. And there's pressure from sales to do things and that sort of stuff. If you make decisions based on our values, we'll always back you. We're always talking about them, and we bring them to life through action. We're going through our performance reviews, our annual performance review process right now. And the second question on our performance review is demonstrate to us how you've lived our values, and we'll talk to you about whether we think you do live the values, and we challenge ourselves on it all of the time.
That's a great answer.
That is a good answer
to the question. Now, can we just change subject for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
You, on your resume, LinkedIn, of course.
Yep.
You are the chair of the committee for Wyndham.
Yes, yeah.
You were also, I think, the captain of the Sanctuary Lakes Golf Club.
I was the chairman of the Sanctuary Lakes Golf Club.
Chairman,
too.
there you go. But leaving golf aside, because that's obviously one of your hobbies, tell us a bit about the committee for Wyndham.
Yeah, so the Committee for Wyndham is one of 26 committees across Australia. It's the third oldest. It's been operating, I think, for 28 years now. Had varying degrees of success over a period of time. The CEO at the time, Barbara McClure, was retiring. Peter had been the chair there for, I think, 8 years. Was also looking to retire, so they approached me to become the chair.
Sorry, just interrupting, because I used to be on Vic West. Is that what preceded the committee for Wyndham? Because Barbara McClure was
there was a Greater Western Chamber of Commerce and Industry for a while, a long time ago. That would probably be 15 years
interrupted.
ago. Yeah. There was a Greater Western Chamber of Commerce and Industry. But essentially, I took on board the role. It was actually good timing for me in terms of just exiting the Telstra businesses that we spoke about. And I've always had a passion for business. I love coming along to the Geelong Chamber of Commerce and seeing just how vibrant that the Chamber of Commerce is. And Wyndham doesn't have that. What Wyndham has is a number of wonderful business groups, but they all tend to be relatively small in size, and they have their own particular focus. And it might be Werribee Traders, Point Cook Traders, Tarnate Traders. But there wasn't an overall business voice of the Wyndham region, and I sort of took it on as a bit of a challenge to say, well, how can we develop that, and how do we reconnect with businesses in the region? How do we reconnect with politicians in the region? How do we reconnect with council in the region? And really took that on board, and really pleased to see that our membership is growing. We've recently just done a survey that you might have seen on LinkedIn where 100% of our members have said to us they would recommend us. They're loving what we're doing. Whereas that wasn't the case 18 months ago. It was probably 50-50. A lot of people questioned the value and where was it at. And the value is just about, very simply, we put it down and say we want to be the business voice of the region so we can talk to people about the things that matter. We want to drive connection in the region. And it's amazing how many businesses want to do business with each other in Wyndham, but how many businesses outside of Wyndham want to do business elsewhere. But also how many businesses outside of Wyndham want to do business inside of Wyndham in terms of that sort of thing, and so we're really trying to drive that connection, and it's definitely heading in the right direction. There's a lot of momentum, but it's a lot of hard work. There is, I've got a wonderful CEO in Leanne, but she's only 1.6 FTE and that sort of stuff. So there's only so much you can actually do. But we're on a starting journey, and we'd love to try and over a period of time create almost like a Chamber of Commerce style in Wyndham that can work co in hand with the chamber down here, and we're talking to Jeremy on quite a regular basis, and so what we can do.
Yeah. It's very important to have that business voice at the end of the day, because you can get lost in the noise if you're not there screaming about your own backyard.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And businesses are telling us so many different things in terms of, whether or not they think Wyndham's open for business or closed for business. And where that connection point back to others, we've connected so many businesses. A really simple story, and this will blow your mind, but I ended up in Port Phillip Prison. This is about a year ago. I ended up in Port Phillip Prison, walking through the maximum security prison on the tour, and I literally was from me to you away from Julian Knight in a yard. Couldn't believe it. It didn't. But why? Because G4S Services are a member of the Committee for Wyndham. I said, well, why are you a member of the Committee for Wyndham? Because we're one of the biggest employers in the region. We employ over 800 people. We want to connect with business. And prison time's hard time. What do we... Craig, you can help me connect to business. And so one of the things we've done is introduced a local plant supplies business, All Green Nursery. They were the and All Green Nurseries. They were the Wyndham Business of the Year last year. They're now got plants inside the prison that are being grown by the prisoners to help that. We'll replant them back out. We'll replant them back out into along the Werribee River and do things like that. And
a win-win.
And everyone wins. And that sort of stuff it gives you.
Very cool.
So that connection piece, and that's just one story. We can tell you a dozen different stories around connection pieces like that.
Talking about the region, Mark and I have a passion about what happens to Avalon Airport.
Yep.
And it connects closely, obviously, to the west.
Yes.
To Wyndham, more importantly, and to Geelong. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the future of Avalon and how it fits in this western region?
Oh, look, it's such an important piece of infrastructure. I had the pleasure of interviewing Tim Pallas on stage at his budget breakfast last year, and deliberately made a point of saying to him, I noticed that you've said if Tullamarine don't get their shit together, we might build the Avalon rail link. And I asked him the question and said, why can't you just build it anyway, right? If you're all about facilitating jobs and what you need to be, we all know that a train station at Avalon would allow people to get off a bus, get on a train, and you can be either in Melbourne or Geelong within an hour. So I think it's incredibly important. A lot of Wyndham residents are migrants to this country, and a lot of them share vehicles and don't have their own mode of transport. That Avalon precinct's become such a big warehousing,
big employment precinct.
massive employment precinct,
but hard to get to.
They can't get there.
Well, Hanmar's going to employ 500 people.
Yeah, Hanmar's employing 500 people. Yes, and they can't get there. But if we had public transport, they could get there. And then secondly, and then the other link to that is tourism in terms of bringing people in from overseas. There was a recent meeting with the future of Avalon, and one of the things and it's easy to get sucked into this, but it's like, there's Avalon, let's bring people. We've got the wonderful Surf Coast, we've got the 12 Apostles, we've got all of these kind of things. But you know what? What you're forgetting about is the number one tourist attraction in Victoria is Werribee Open Range Zoo and the Mansion, and that's 20 minutes away. We should be publicising that too. We should be talking at Avalon Airport about the enormous Asian Indian population that could bring people through as well. And so I think Avalon plays a huge role in terms of employment, and we just need to keep pushing and pushing and pushing for the infrastructure we need to build. And I'm really, really pleased to see, whilst at the Committee for Wyndham we are. We're non-partisan in terms of our own, from a political side. The recent by-election with Werribee can only be a good thing for the region in terms of, you would say now that Werribee's a swinging seat.
Well, read today's Herald Sun. You see a little map about a shuttle bus from near Lara over to the airport. Yeah. Anyway, quickly, 5 years' time, what's Kenstra up to?
5 years' time, look, Kenstra's, we are specialising in what we call Microsoft Modern Workplace. So there's the traditional IT of everything, computers, networks, and that. We all do that. We really want to take businesses into the automated world. So automation of, if you want a laptop sent, we should be able to send it out. You should be able to open it up, and we don't even have to touch it. Automated out-of-box experience, Copilot, AI, and using AI to create more efficiencies in process, a lot of training. So we will. So Kenstra will look after your telephony platform. Will look after your desktop support, your networks, cybersecurity. But a big part of what we're about is business efficiency. Work from anywhere in the world. Work from anywhere in the world securely, and be able to take advantage of some of the new technology that's coming through. We're not setting any limits. We're certainly aware that our name in Geelong is slowly getting out of there. There's been, I'm sure you guys are aware, there's been a few acquisitions in the IT region by some, and I guess what I would say to the Geelong businesses out there, that if you are looking for a business owner that you can call when something goes wrong, or you're looking for that, you're looking to get back to that more personalised service than something of a more of a national based IT company, then certainly we're there to help in any way, shape or form we can.
So getting in touch with you, www.kenstra.com.au.
Kenstra.com.au. You can find us on LinkedIn. Yeah, we're there. You can find us at where we are now at 17 Fenwick Street. Yeah,
fantastic. And Committee for Wyndham website.
Committee for
good question.
Good question. Just type in Committee for
Wyndham. Which will pop up and people can get
Mark, one quick final word.
Is
we're in Fenwick Street. When we moved from Geelong, from Yarrawonga, when I was about 6 or 7, my father rented a house in Fenwick Street. Of course, it's on top of the tunnel, and every time a steam train went through, the whole house shook, and all the dishes, you could hear all the plates in the cupboards rattling and all of that.
You're right.
That's my memory of Fenwick Street.
And we're right off opposite Matthew Flinders, aren't we?
The girls.
So a good location.
Secondary college.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you, Craig. That was great.
No, thanks,
really
guys.
interesting story.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And
thanks, Craig.
Good luck with Kenstra, and good luck with the Committee for Wyndham.
And thank you, and good luck with your continue with the podcast. It's great.
Thank you.